Welcome back to the question and answer session for Captain's Table. If you missed the first part, come join Croncy and Nick. We talked about the ways you can play Star Citizen that CIG never intended. And the ways you can play the game without, playing the missions and all those other things, the vast wealth of other things and opportunities you can play in. It'll be right there if you're watching on YouTube, right above Nick's head. You'll see the link. Click that, go watch that first and come back here. If you're watching this live, you can always catch the VOD after the fact, or if you were listening to some podcasts, just the previous episode. Anywho, let's get started. The chat has been asking questions for the cast. Some of these will be questions for the cast, some of them will be individual. So let's get started. The first question is from Anna, who asks, what was the last fun thing you did in Star Citizen that was the fun intended by the developers? Croncy?
I am often easily satisfied. So, whenever the most recent time I did mining.
Okay, so mining.
Yeah, I find that a lot of fun. So,
Nick?
I would say the most recent time I had a lot of fun with the community, all surrounding around the one thing the game developers wanted us to do was the last time Jumptown was out. And it's just, I would go there just with a sniper rifle with the Arctic camo and just snipe people from there. I wouldn't even be going there just to even get loot or anything. I just wanted to shoot people. And I had a few people come and join me, and I even had ships come looking for me because I knew, for one, ships check around rocks. So I'm like, well, I can't be near a rock. They're going to look there. So I got the Arctic White camo on, laid flat on the snow with it, got a sniper rifle and just started sniping people, and ships would go flying around, looking around the rocks because he's got to be in cover, right? Not camouflaged. And that was so much fun that they were flying over me, looking over me. I was tensed up. People, my other org mates were also doing the same thing, and then people would just, that was the fun that CIG intended, and Jumptown was the last time I definitely had an insane amount of fun.
Yeah, I get it. I would say I've been doing my 0 to hero runs, so it's where I take an account that has nothing but a starter ship and just play the game like it was intended. And I recently unlocked the delivery missions, which are 45,000 UEC delivery missions, where you have to walk through bunkers. Butthole clenched, just puckered with that, because you walk through. I figured out that the enemy spawn waves are random, but they're also connected to when you pick up the right box. So when you find the box one of the boxes you're supposed to pick up, once you've picked it up, it'll trigger an event so that the enemy, the pirates, the Ninetails will show up and start attacking the bunkers. So you know that you're picking up boxes if it's the right box, so they're not all labeled. You have to go find out which one is which. You're you know that at the second you pick up a box, if you're in the wrong position, you could just literally pick up the box and the door behind you could open and you just get shot. So it's been one of those weird things. You just walking around with a tractor beam, just going check, check, check. Oh, that's the one. Pull out my gun. Where are you coming from? I gotta find you now. And then trying to desperately pick them up and throw yeet them across the if they're upstairs, yeet them downstairs towards the entrance, and then run through them the gunfire, trying to pick up your boxes and put them away. It's fun. It's never the same experience every time. And it kept me on my feet, and it's been a fun experience to do that. Especially if once you've cleared out everything and you say I've been doing it around Hurston, so it's a Hurston security guard's there. It's oh, hey, that's the nice armor. I'm gonna take you with me now. Just picking up. You're coming with me. I'm taking your armor and I'm going to wear it. So that's been fun. All right, next question comes from Case Cape, who asks, will fleet battles be possible, do you guys think? Big org v org battles. That would add a lot of fun factor. I see it like guild versus guild and the older traditional MMO, but with Star Citizen has to offer, maybe it's too early to tell. Nick, since I know you're in part of the kind of milsims, do you think we'll be seeing big org v orgs fleet battles?
Yeah, that's a massive thing that's going to be eventually happening, especially with once the interior ship calling comes in, and also server meshing and all that, and we can get the performance of the servers up. A single javelin will be very performant, even if it has all the players on it, because all those players will be net called and bind calling. So you'll see the turrets shooting, but that'll just be like the animation on your end of the turrets shooting, hopefully, technically. And so you should just see the one javelin there shooting and the separate turrets shooting at where they need to be, and not be seeing the 80 plus people on that ship. It's not necessary. So hopefully when the entire interior calling and network bind calling when tied in with server meshing, I think we can see large scale fleet battles. And the question is, how big will the limit be? We don't know that yet, and there's a lot of things that can prevent it from reaching the scale we want to see, but I think it will reach a scale of at least of I am in a fleet battle, and I think we will reach that point.
You think it'll feel like a fleet rather than just being like small ships?
And already, you can, a 25 versus 25 fleet battle right now feels very intense when you have 5, like a squadron of fighters with hammerheads and a base of operations as a Carrack, and you do the milsim way of actually you respawn there, you regroup, and you redeploy with a little fighter ship. And it's intense when you're actually having to do these kind of org v org events in that sort of way, where you're not just respawning and running back, respawning, running back, when you're actually kind of doing it in a structured way, where you guys are redeploying as a squad. You're waiting for your squad, and if your deploy ship gets exploded, their entire squad's wiped out again. So your pilots need to be on point, and the drop pilot needs to be on point, and the LZ needs to be clear, and you need to clear that LZ when you land, immediately, and make sure that it's actually safe to proceed with the mission. And once you get into a massive, just 25 people versus 25 people in that kind of scenario, when you have a set number of people in the sky, ground, and being support in the air, it's even 25 versus 25. It feels really engaging.
I've done that in the past when Star Citizen was much worse in terms of performance. And I remember I still have a moment where we were doing a fleet battle where there was 17, 18 of us going down in fighters towards a base that someone was holding. And they were coming up with 17, 20 fighters. And it was just this mob of fighters coming towards each other. And when they hit it, it was just laser fire everywhere, people breaking and flying. It was Star Wars. It looked like Star Wars. It was that kind of crazy pell-mell. It feels ridiculous. I've been on drop ships in ops where you're getting chased by fighters and you're sitting there waiting for the ramp to drop so you can get out, and it's like space D-Day, where you see explosions around you, you're running around, you're trying not to get sniped by the people who are in space around you or in the hills. So
I've also had it where I was in the back of an Ursa redeploy out from the back of it, and immediately I'm the first one off. I get in a position and boom, it explodes and everyone else is dead except for 3 other people, and we're like, what do we do now?
Yeah.
What do we...
Croncy, what do you think? Do you think we're going to see large fleet battles in the game?
Yeah, for sure. We kind of already do. So given it is PvE, but Xenothreat and Ninetales are large-scale fleet battles. They're extremely primitive, but they're there. So you can already get a taste of what it likely will be like. In terms of PvP fleet v fleet, I think it's not a question of whether the tech can handle it or anything like that. I think it's going to be more a question of why will you want to do the fleet battles? Are we going to have territory that we're going to be fighting over? You're going to have trades, resources that you're going to be fighting over? I'm sure you will, but it sort of depends on when we see those actually come into the game and whether it is worth bringing a capital ship to defend some territory, So, yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that one. I think the question isn't if, it's when, and like, what's the limit? I think for fleet battles, the question is not will we see it, is more how big will the battles be? I think some people have an idea that's far too large, like the concept that it's like, oh yeah, it's going to be millions of people fighting each other. It's like, it's probably not. But you probably also wouldn't have millions of people fighting for a reason. There has to be a reason why these battles are going on, and resources or territory or strategic control of some place, like a base that's built right next to on a planet that's right next to a jump point that has good resources like fuel or something like that you want to take because it's a good staging point for your own forces. That's the key mostly, is how CIG will give us the tools to craft those situations so that they just happen naturally rather than just forced. But all right, this is an interesting question. Sandgroper asks, what Star Citizen ship is your emotional support ship and why? Croncy.
The mole is everything to me. It is the perfect ship, and if I'm ever feeling sad, it's the perfect ship to get into. And if you have any other ships that you think is your emotional support ship, you're wrong. It's the mole.
It's the mole. Nick, what's your emotional support ship and why?
My emotional support ship would definitely have to be the 400i. Because when I'm having a bad day, I can just go in, sit in my own private residence, and wipe my tears with money.
Love it.
I was going to make a similar joke. I was going to say the Cutlass Black because whenever I'm feeling bad, I can get into it and then I go ruin somebody else's day with it. So I'll feel better because their day is worse. All right. Next question is from Del Ener, who asks, CIG seems to be implying that they are adding docking to the August Dunlo spaceport at Orison. Thoughts on the implications of possible capital ship docking in Atmo? Does it make sense for capitals to dock at Orison? It's a good question. It's a discussion that we were having on my Discord at one point. I'll start by just saying I agree with what Tree was talking about on our Discord, which is there's certain sizes which don't make a lot of sense, like javelins. But in Idris, yeah, sure, why not? I think it's there because in lore, the concept of why Orison was purchased by Crusader has to do with the fact that they could access supplies easier and build ships that would normally be required to be built in 0G, but not without having to require like pressure suits and oxygen, all of the resources to do that. So the idea of August Dunlo having a docking port makes sense for just being able to support whole seas and larger ships as well. So, and yes, Tupan, Orison was originally was usually used by the Navy shipyards to make capitals, but it doesn't necessarily make sense for it to host capitals. There's a difference between building a javelin in a upper atmosphere and making sure that javelin only can fly in and out of that upper atmosphere. So.
But it's also worth noting the docking collars aren't just for capitals. Right now, it's pretty much just for capitals and the Hammerhead. But the Hull C, like they need a lot of cargo down there to create those ships. We need it. Like it makes sense to have a docking collar so Hull Seas can offload their cargo down there, right? So,
yeah.
I think also the buoyancy effect though with Crusader specifically makes it so that ships are very easy floatable in lore, and they are working on buoyancy tech. So there might be, just like the way the physics engine handles certain large ships inside that atmosphere, that could make it so that they can or can't be in that. But it's going to be very dynamic in that way once that buoyancy tech's in.
Yeah. I think it's obviously they're trying to make Orison feel different as well. It's also a matter of like lore to make it feel like obviously it's a station just with atmosphere around it rather than being a typical landing zone. So, All right. Next question comes from Gin and Tonic, who asks, everyone agrees that the Expanse is a stupid name. Can you think of a better alternate choice than processor? Then we'd have the prospector and the processor. Kiln, the Misk kiln. You know, I would say Crucible, but I think the Crucible already exists, doesn't the Anvil?
Yeah, Crucible's already an Anvil ship. It's the repair ship.
A Foundry.
I mean, most ships in Star Citizen have dumb names anyway.
Yeah.
Like, it honestly doesn't bother me that much.
One of my favorites is the Liberator. Why do we have the Liberator and then the the Valkyrie Liberator? So you can have your Liberator on your Liberator while you liberate the Liberation.
Yeah.
Liberate another Liberator from a Liberator.
Yes.
Yeah, where's our Liberators pirate like organization so we can liberate them?
I mean, yeah, and dumb names are a staple of Star Citizen. I'd like to point out that the last ship that was released was a hover quad, and it was called the Hover Quad. It's its name. It's just the Hover Quad.
Yeah, that was extremely lazy. The Hover Quad naming is just no. Come on,
Yeah.
like
the
have
Misk
a
refiner.
simple brainstorm. A single brainstorm session could have had a better name than a Hover Quad. That's just lazy writing.
Yeah.
To quote Deadpool, not that I actually think it's lazy writing.
All right. Next question is from Sandy Claus, who asks, is refueling different in atmosphere? Have either of you tried refueling in atmosphere?
Yeah, you can't do it.
You can't?
No, it turns off your engines when you dock to the refueler. So you just fall.
There you go. So you can't do it. So yes, the answer is yes. It is different in atmosphere. You can't do it. All right. Next question comes from Sandy Claus, who asks, is the meta of clusters always going to be Quantanium on Lyria still in 317?
So sort of with what limited testing a bunch of us miners have done. But it's much harder to identify clusters now because, like I said, you've got to get way closer to them to even figure out that they're clusters in the first place. It's very early days. It's a massive change to mining that's happened, so we've got to wait a bit to figure out if everything's still good.
Okay. I don't know anything about mining, so I'll take your word for it, Croncy.
I don't do mining either, so I have no knowledge of any of the changes.
This is another Croncy question then, because it's Miles Basement asks, have you experienced asteroid mining to be nerfed a bit in regards to the mineable stuff versus inerts?
No, asteroid mining appears to be exactly the same as it was 316, except for, like I said, the scanning changes. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I will mention on there was kind of a buff to like even with all the scanning nerfs and whatnot, there was kind of a buff to moon mining, which it does seem like there are many more rocks in general, like just more spawns of rocks.
All right. The next question comes from Del Ener, who asks, what are your predictions on the next items services that will be run by Quantum in the future patches this year? I'll start by just saying I think all of the current commodities will be run by Quantum. Though I think the next major patch is probably going to be refined materials, because they've talked about in the past how they wanted to have refined materials be controlled by Quantum, which would make sense, so that it's effectively the next Quantum change would be miners. So they'd add in miners, NPC miners who would then be delivering their loads to refineries, then change the value of the various goods and services, various mining materials, because it's also the most furthest along gameplay loop. So adding Quanta to the most refined gameplay loop would probably make sense.
That also makes a lot more sense and a lot more controlled step than just making it to every single commodity that could be traded immediately. Because that's just like a whole cluster of worms. They might be brave enough to pull it off. I mean, with Tony Z behind the wheel of that, you don't know where. Like, that's a crazy road to be behind. So, who knows? But I think it would be a good step to at least get refinery, the refinery economy locked down after this, because it's a game loop that both needs it, but also isn't as complex and easy way to find, but is also a good step toward the next step, which would be all the commodities between all trading posts.
It also makes sense to wait until like the cargo refactor until you start doing the quantities of those sort of commodities.
Yeah.
What do you think, Croncy?
Additionally, with
go ahead, Nick.
100%, exactly the same. So, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not really much more to say about
it.
That's the place where it's most likely to be. It's the it would also make like the entire mining process also sort
dynamic.
of already. Yeah, exactly. Because it also means like right now refineries are themselves, a lot of people might not know, refineries themselves are dynamic. It's just that it's so over the top already that it's becomes static. So you might not know, once there's more and more people using a certain refinery, the costs and time of that refinery go up, but there is a maximum point, and I'm fairly sure every single refinery in Star Citizen right now has reached that point, or does within like a couple of hours when servers reset. But having that in addition to, once I've actually refined, I've got Quanta, gives you a couple of things to think about during the gameplay loop. So,
yeah. It's the most logical next step, because it'll make effectively, once that's implemented, it'll make it so that there's not just the one meta. It's not the do Quantanium here to get this material and go. It'll now depend on what is available in the marketplace. But I think that really needs, if they're going to do that, they really need some sort of market tracker, so we know that that's changing, because otherwise people will just guess at what they should be mining. So.
Just a simple like drop down menus of what they have now. Select your system, select your planet, select your landing zone. Here are the prices of what they're selling and what they're buying, and have your destination here on the other one, and pick whichever destination you want and compare the two. Like just a simple comparison between two outposts and their prices is something I think that's all we need. They might go a lot more in depth than that, I feel. Especially I think we're going to be looking at an entire stock market spreadsheet when we get something like that in game, but we just need a simple one. We don't need something too complex, unless but an option to have both wouldn't be bad either.
All right, the next question comes from Goki, who asks, outside of your own communities, what are your favorite Star Citizen communities, and what do they bring to the table? I'll start by saying I love the Zark Media guys. I talked about it last time, but the fact that they do like in-game, in-fiction news channel that talks about the events in-game as if they were, news, and then does it as full in-game with FOIP capture and, commentary and everything. And they do sometimes weekly updates. It's fantastic. I love it. So, Croncy?
I'd say a lot of the PvP community that I see on Twitch, like all the time. I don't enjoy doing a lot of PvP myself because I'm too bad at it and I'm too stubborn to learn. But I do enjoy watching people who are good at PvP and as long as they're doing it without griefing. But most of them aren't doing it with griefing.
I'll make a cop out and say the pirate community too. People like Cutlet when he was still before the war was happening, and other folks like that are just they are so talented at what they do. It's insane what they're able to do with this game. How they break the game to make it work for them, and what they can do. Like just the sheer skill of the shock and awe that these pirates can do in terms of like not killing people but still being able to take their stuff is amazing. Nick?
Yeah, it's super cool.
Oh, what was the question again?
Your favorite community outside of your own in Star Citizen?
Outside of my own community, the entire Twitch community on Star Citizen. It's a pretty large community, but like there's so many. I think every single Twitch streamer and every single community has something a little bit different to offer, but like all together as a whole, it's just so wholesome here on Twitch with all the Star Citizen creators and content creators, and it's probably the best community I think any content creator or Star Citizen person could be a part of.
Yeah. It's a weird, we are a very weird Twitch community because we're a community where people feel comfortable hanging out with larger streamers and smaller streamers all the time. Like you'll see people who are hanging out in streamers that have like 2 people, and one of those is just someone like Captain Burks, or Croncy. And it's just because we have friends who play with us when we're streaming, or like we see them and they're streaming, and so we'll just hang out and listen to them while everything's going on. And there's a lot of cross chatter. And if you're willing to reach out to anybody in the Star Citizen community, there's very few people who say no. Especially a lot of us are, if you're like, hey, can I stream with you? It's like another person, more people to interact with.
I can talk to someone while I'm dealing with all these issues and bugs, and we can both experience it at the same time and both like go off of each other. Yes.
And also what we just talked about last episode, nice little tie-in there where you can, finding other people to hang out and do stuff with is fun, So, let's move on to the next question. Dakota's Vasselman asks, do you think Lorville's skyline rework will even increase its dystopian out-of-touch feel that the Hurston family has? I hope. I hope what they do is just take a look. They just obsess over the intro shots of Blade Runner and just try to recreate that. All right, that's my hope. And if I take one look at Lorville and go, this place looks horrible, then I think they'll have succeeded.
I think Maria Pure of Heart has done a lot to sort of increase the world building and the feel of the city. So I would only assume that the re-landscaping will be following a similar primer.
Yeah, Maria Lore of Heart seems just like larger than every other place in Lorville outside of the business district, and it's just like it just makes the rest of the city feel cramped and like disgusted and discarded compared to once you're actually in the family's like ring and everything, and up in the upper echelon of Lorville you're treated like royalty, and it's just like you have all this space now and are comfortable. I hope we see those kind of tie-ins when they expand it out to be like, this is definitely the rich people area, and this is definitely the poor people area. You don't want to go there, but you have to.
I love it. All right. The next question comes from Sandy Claus, who asks, are refined material prices dynamic and fluctuate yet? No, not yet. The only things that are dynamic are repair, quantum fuel, hydrogen fuel. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. Those are the only three things are dynamic. And the way you can tell is if you have a Starfarer park next to a station, and then you look at the auto pricing for fuel, and you'll see it jump. If you just click the auto price on it, it'll just jump in prices, and that'll tell you that there's quanta that are using the fuel. And as the more the quanta uses it, the higher the fuel price can go, the less it'll go down. So you'll see the fluctuations there. And I think it's probably overtuned for 317's PTU. It's probably jacked up just so they can see it react much faster. So it'll probably tone down a little bit for the actual release. But all right, Ionic Gecko asks, what do you see as the biggest mechanics that are yet to come which change how players will interact with the Star Citizen verse? Croncy, your thoughts on this?
So Salvage is obviously the biggest, like just straight up, here's a mechanic that's coming out soon that's going to, it's going to alter stuff a lot. But I think probably the one that's going to be the most important, if you'll call it a mechanic, is the proper dynamic mission system. We've gotten a bit of a taste of it, but nothing that like resembles what they're expecting. I believe we're getting a little bit of the pyro. So, that's you directly interacting with the verse, and it's going to be a huge part. So,
yeah, especially since it's also repair, right? Salvage is also the repair side of things. So,
yeah, whole stripping and repair. So that's going to be interesting.
Nick, what do you think? What do you think is the biggest change of how players will interact with the verse?
I definitely feel like the one thing that's going to change how we interact entirely with everything is going to be the cargo refactor. That's going to tie in with a dynamic mission system for cargo missions. That's going to tie in with piracy and PvP. That's going to tie in with just like doing missions and like looting and stuff. It's going to tie into everything, and it's going to have this massive cascading effect on everyone's gameplay, no matter what you're doing in the verse. And that's something that I feel like we don't even know how extensive it's going to be on how it's going to affect. All the gameplay we talked about in the podcast just before the Q&A session is it'll change and affect all of those. The milsim stuff, the roleplay stuff, it's going to affect and change everything. And I think that's going to be the one change that's going to have a really large effect once it's implemented.
Lots of ripple effects, yeah. I'm going to stick with my guns, my tried and true guns, reputation. I think reputation and its full form will completely change how you play the game because it'll make all of your actions have consequences, good and bad. So depending on who you interact with and how you interact with them will determine where you are welcome and where you're not welcome in the verse, and who will be attacking you and who won't be helping you. And I think they're going to start off pretty simple with just like good guys and bad guys reputations, but eventually they're going to, it's important to remember that, for instance, Bering and Klaus and Werner are competitors with one another. So if you're working with one company, the other company may not like you and may not give you as good a reputation or be able to do some. Working for two separate companies that are shipping companies. Say you're transporting stuff. Working for this company that is that's shipping goods, say Kovalax, will make you the other shipping companies may not want to work with you as much because you're helping their competitor. So those sorts of things will have a lot of effect on what you can do in the game and where you can go in the game. And I don't think people have really encapsulated that. And at the beginning of that this year is going to happen between now and the end of the year, with the goal being eventually, like you have a high enough reputation with the Ninetales. The Ninetales may show up and just not attack you. Just skip on, just hail you and be like, "Oh, hey, what's up, buddy? Sorry, keep going. We're sorry to pull you out of Quantum. Just keep going."
We've also mentioned it a couple of times, right? Like they've talked about how one of the ways that reputation will be interacted is just how you present yourself to those mission givers. So if you come down to Constantine Herson and you're wearing like the dirtiest clothes imaginable, it's just going to wave you out of his office, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you're walking in full tack gear in like to like Klim, he might be like, "Are you a cop?" What? So that's be interesting too. A reason to not have to wear your spacesuit everywhere. You may have to dress up or change clothing. So, all right. Next question comes from Outlaw Knight Zero, who asks, as group/org play seems to be the direction the game is going, any tips for shy, introverted players? Solo activities and finding places in an org. I will say that there is lots of orgs out there which are big, and it's easy to find an org that's big where you can slot yourself into and just kind of melt into the background if you wanted to. And there are also plenty of orgs that are looking for people who are just like to do one thing. So like if you just want to run cargo on your own and you don't want to do anything else, there's plenty of orgs who are like, "Hey, we'll just pay you to run cargo for us." And so you can still work with people and still do the things that need to be done and get the protection you need, but do the thing you like to do. If you just want to be a miner and you just want to mine, joining a mining organization that just needs miners, boom, you get your prospect, you're out there, and then if you need, you just walk out with the other people and do the things you need to do. So what I suggest doing is just going through Spectrum, looking at the different like lists, and just when you apply for any of those things, just be like, "Hey, I'm kind of a solo player. I want to do more stuff, but can I, be honest with those people?" And you'll probably find some people who'll be interested in hanging out with you.
Also, a lot of the big orgs are on YouTube, and they usually generate their own like YouTube content so that to promote for recruitment. And those are another good way to see what the org is about and what they want to do and what their org wants to achieve. And that's pretty awesome that some do that. So there's a lot of resources out there to find and search for the org that you want and to get a taste of what each org does individually.
Croncy?
Yeah, plenty of opportunities to join these larger communities, but with minimal interaction. An example in the racing community is we have time trials. You can just do time trials, and then you're still participating in this like large group activity, but you don't have to talk to anyone. So it's yeah.
You'll be surprised how many people sometimes a group just needs somebody who can carry something from point A to point B, or just drop somebody off. So.
Or just guard that door. We just need to guard that door. Just chill out, hang out, speak and talk all the shit you want. Just guard that door.
Midnight Black SC asks, has Star Citizen ever talked about the possibility of having refineries at our player-owned bases? If not, do you think that might be on the table? I can almost guarantee you they'll have some sort of refinery options for outposts.
100%. I think any job that you can do in a ship or at a station, you're going to be able to do on your own land once you get a pioneer to build it for you. It's just a matter of if and when. That's all it is, and how.
Yeah. Plus, like, there are technically refinery like homesteads and stuff in the game right now. We just don't have access to them. All we can do is buy from them, right? So anything that a outpost does right now, expect us to get the ability to do the same.
Yep. All right. Next question comes from Steve B. Dancer, who asks, how do each of you feel about the subscriber items able to be found in game? I am nonplussed. I don't care. Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Get that swag.
Yeah, it's a good thing. If people are mad about that, they should be mad about people being able to buy ships in game, right? Like it's a good thing.
It's a non-issue at all. Like I don't think anyone should be upset that like, oh, the subscriber armor's in it. Just like, cool. So people can get cool looking stuff that I already have. Great. Let's all look good.
And to be honest, as somebody who's been a subscriber for a very long time, I don't care about the subscriber gear. It's usually worse than the gear that you get in the verse, or it's like maybe like a unique skin, but I don't get to choose the skin. It's just whatever CIG gives me. So it's like, great, I get a puke brown shirt. Thank you, CIG. I enjoy my flight suit that looks like I just vomited on it because I drank one too many at the bar last night. Thank you so much, CIG. That's I feel comfortable.
It also alleviates the stress for everyone who's already a subscriber for losing their subscriber gear. Because if we can just go find it and loot, then maybe we'll actually start wearing it more often. Because like, oh, I already got like 2 sets of this now that I looted. So now I'll actually just wear it and not worry about losing my subscriber armor because I can just go loot it.
I mean, there's some stuff I'd like that I really like, but that's all like event stuff, like the jacket from the
Invictus last year.
Yeah. And the jackets from IAE, those sorts of things I really like. I don't want to lose, but other than that, it's like, and that's more like I was at this event. That's why it's sentimental. So
yeah.
All right. Del Ener asks, CIG had a sneak peek for the Corsair cockpit that looked like it had a lot of safety mechanisms. Is the Corsair's baby's first pirate ship?
It's the Aurora.
Yeah, the Aurora is baby's first pirate ship.
The Aurora is the baby's first pirate ship.
I wouldn't expect any of the Corsair's seats to have ejection seats. It's most likely because I think the one that they showed, because I didn't see that, was like the back seat looks a little different from the front seat. The back seat I think is supposed to swing down underneath the first seat, so you sit in the back seat and it'll like lower you down into a further into a bottom observation area. So you're just like you're right below the pilot. So it's more like a cutlass than a caterpillar. But it like the seats look like a caterpillar and then they transform into more like a cutlass. That's why I think it has all those like safety-ish features that look like it at least. So.
Plus, what is safety with Drake when you really think about it?
Drake's safety is regeneration. That's their safety.
We gave you gun and shield. You're fine. Hey, this is safe. You're safe. You kill them first. Yeah, get good. I turned into Watto there for a moment.
Like your colors has 6 size 3s. How you know kill someone?
All right. Deliner asks, speaking of Jumptown, with the new changes to bike and ground vehicle signatures, do you think the next Jumptown will be even more ground-based? I hope. I really hope.
It'll be a lot more fun if it is.
If there
it's already fun, but
yeah.
I would love it if they added in like a player-controlled box that turned on an ATC thing that would just have ships fly away. Like you know how in an ATC when you go trespassing, it'll like it'll be like, hey, you can't be here, and it'll, the autopilot will pull you away from it. I think it'd be cool if they just added a little tiny box that you could activate it in it and just like disable air traffic that's flying in it. So then players would so then at that time the ships that you have landed are safe from ships, and it would force players to actually use ground vehicles to go and turn that thing off so they can get their ships back in there.
I like that idea, but I think a better idea is just to allow me to reload my ballistas, because I think if you had a good group that had a good 3 to 4 ballistas parked at Jumptown, they could shut down airspace from there. Like you ain't seeing
have
it.
A small. If they had a small outpost that would just had some ground vehicles spawns like 10 kilometers away. That would definitely incentivize players using ground vehicles to get into Jumptown, because they'd be like, I'm not going to go directly to Jumptown, but I'll go to this outpost 10-15 kilometers away, spawn ground vehicles, we can all get reorg here, and then go to Jumptown.
Yeah, or having, as chat said, having like the ability to turn on anti-air guns at this place where you can control the anti-air guns. Basically, like, hey, we're friendly. Everyone in this group is friendly. Shoot anything else, kind of thing. Yeah, nice.
That would be a good test of a permission system too. Like, don't shoot anyone in my party. Done.
Yeah. All right. Next question comes from Tarnfolk, who asks, so the Expanse 100% should have been an ice or gas hauler, right? Yes. Yes, and it should have been called the Canterbury. That's it.
The Canterbury.
Or the Chaucer, because, that's, Canterbury Tales, Chaucer. Yeah. I don't know why it would work for... Go ahead.
Refinery the Cant.
Yeah. All right. Ucomic asks, why the hate for Misk ships, Croncy? And what are Nick and Astro's thoughts on the look of the Misk Expanse? We talked about this before, before the recording.
Yeah. So Ucomic's a person that's in my community a lot, and he knows the answer. It's because I hate him. There's no actual hate from me for any real ship design or any real ship. But there's I think this is ugly in a good way. I think it is I do not want to be seen in this ship, but I'm happy it exists, and I think it's a cool thing.
It looks fine. It looks like a prospector, which is good. It looks like a prospector with some thick midsections. That's what it looks like. So, Nick, what do you think?
I think it's ugly. But outside of that, it's also smooth and sleek and where it wants to be and should be. But at the same time, it's just for me, it's just a box that holds other boxes and melts things that are in boxes into other boxes, and it looks just like that.
Yeah,
and
it looks like what it does, which is good.
It's ugly, but it will work.
It's a factory. It's hard to make factories look as very aesthetically pleasing.
Del Ener asks, what stories would you like to see told in Star Citizen universe, either in game format or movies or books? I'd like to see players be able to experience the verse more than see stories. If I was going to say one lore piece, I'd like to see more from the Belligerent Duck, the main crew from the Homecoming, short film they did. But Croncy, what about you?
Yeah, I'm probably on the same page. Just seeing more stuff from, like, give me more stories about one crew, multiple stories about one crew doing something, whatever it might be, getting themselves trapped in some pickles.
Nick?
One thing I'd like to see for like the stories and stuff in Star Citizen is I'd love to see them kind of do what they did with the I'd love them to do short like skits and cinematics of already existing lore posts and just have like reenactments of what has happened, like for the first time they jump drived or the first time they had that Banu interaction, just having a cinematic reenactment in lore of like, this is just a cinematic reenactment, and just having it visually see how it played out, you know, with an artistic spin license on it through whichever in-game, you know, artists or directors who are making it. I think that would be a really good way, interactive way to introduce players into the lore that we're not living through or experiencing in our time. And I think that'd be a good way to get them introduced to how this world was built, how Robert Space Industries came about, how the Zeus came about, how Jump Drive came about, how we met all these alien races, and just seeing these in cinematics versus just a little lore post would be, I think, just a short thing that they could do for like a TikTok length, and then just have us be hooked. And I think that'd just be really immersion. Lots of immersion.
Less immersion. I think it would be a great way of because, you know, people are a lot more engaged with audio and video content than they would be with just stories. So yeah, I think that'd be a good way of getting people to like, oh, this is how the universe came about. But all right, we've got 6 more questions left. I'll ask the last question first because this is a good one. I'd rather not end on this one, which is any mentions of theaters of war? And the answer is no. Last we heard, Fire Sprite was still working on it. That's about it, though. So
check the roadmap.
Yeah,
that's a Jake Acapella answer right there. Look at the roadmap.
Look at the roadmap. Look at the progress tracker.
Look at the progress tracker. Yeah, that one. Look at you'll see it on there. It's on there. No one questions.
Yeah, no one questions. Ionic asks, what kind of emergent gameplay / shenanigans can you foresee coming out of Salvage gameplay loop? Well, I'm going to give the honest answer, which is time to penis is going to go down to -2. Like, everyone's drawing penises on their ships. That's just what's going to happen.
I already plan to do that everywhere. Like, I'm just going to go on someone's ship and just draw a dick somewhere and be like, you got to find my...
Where's Wally? The Star Citizen version. But where's Willie?
I made it's really small. You gotta find it.
Oh, well. I expect we're going to see a lot of pirates adopt some salvage. If it's possible to salvage ships that aren't wrecked, which I think it might be, I actually expect sort of like a very nefarious countdown for extortion. Yeah. So you've got 5 minutes to give me $100,000. Every minute it goes past, I'm going to take a wing. I'm going to take an engine. Like, I'm just going to start salvaging your ship. Yeah.
What do you think, Nick?
Oh, people going AFK and like stripping it away.
Oh, so you think people are just going to start stripping ships when they're AFK?
Once a friend goes away to go get food or something, you're just going to start stripping their shit. They're going to come back and be like, what did you do to my ship? It's going to be the equivalent of drawing on someone's face when they're passed out. Like,
there was a scene in Lord of War when he lands that plane and then he just like take it all, and then like within like 2 hours like they've like stripped down the plane to its like bulkheads and just ripped everything off of it. That's what I'm thinking about. That is like someone just spawns their ship's like, oh, I'm gonna use the restroom right now. Everyone's just like, quick, let's see if we can strip the whole ship before he gets back, you know. All right. Next question comes from KROVV Workshop, who asks, do we know if we will be able to own a refinery in the future, in space or in a station or on our own plot of planets? or owning this ship will be the only way to refine without costs. And if they have more alternative plans for refinery in the future, do you think they will hide them from us because it could impact the sales of the Expanse? No. There is actually another ship that has a refinery on it. It's the Orion, which is this huge mining ship which comes with its own refinery.
There's also the implication that we're going to be getting some larger refinery ships, just with some of the language that they use about the Expanse. But also, we touched on this before. Like we expect, outposts will likely get some refineries. I fully expect at some point we'll be able to either build our own or control, at the very least, a station refinery of some kind. But I don't think there will ever be zero costs. For the most part, there's going to be some sort of cost, whether it's refueling, whether it's material costs for the actual refining process itself, or
power costs. People don't even realize that there's actually power is going to start costing something now on your ships. It'll cost you fuel or other some sort of resource. So
there's also the Odyssey, which has a refinery just for quantum fuel and its own fuel. So
and of course the Starfarer can refine fuel as well.
Starfarer can refine fuel.
Cozy03 asks, do you think some focus on group play tech would help us make our own fun while we wait for the actual game? They have pretty good, I hate to be old man yelling at clouds, but back in my day, it was a lot worse to be part of a party. It's a lot better than it has been in the past. And I think as the foundational elements of things like server meshing and persistence start coming in, a lot of that the current group play stuff will stabilize. It won't be as janky as it is now. But what do y'all think?
I think it's likely to be one of the like an upgrade to the party system and sort of comms as like a secondary. It's probably one of the last things that's going to be brought onto building blocks in terms of mobiGlas. So expect it, but it's going to be some time, I think.
Yeah,
I would love to see it expand out to the point where you can have those layered comms of, the platoon leader can talk to the squad leaders, but the squad leader can't talk to the headquarters directly, and there's got to be a lot of this communication. And I would just love to see it so that, the squad members can only talk to their head and the other head. I would love to see those layered permission VoIP systems in orgs, and I think that would be one thing that would make the VoIP in game a lot better and a lot more usable, and being able to manage that in a party as well, so that you can know that if people in this ship don't need to be talking to the other people in the other ship because they don't need to be, so just go in the other channels, or just mark that once you're in this ship you're only talking to the people in this ship, and only the captain of this ship can talk to the captain of the other ship, or whoever's the communicator station.
Yeah, there's actually something I was going to bring up as you mentioned that, is that ship roles, because I think in the future being able to have the captain talk to the heads of engineering or weapons or whoever is more valuable, because of playing games like Pulsar, the Lost Colony, and the Star Trek Bridge Crew. Comms is so important. I cannot overestimate, or I cannot underestimate, whatever. I have to very much put emphasis on the fact that a good captain is the difference between life and death a lot in these types of games. Because a captain is the person who's going to make the decisions, because if people start doing stuff on their own without the input from the captain, then stuff just goes bad quickly, because everyone needs to be working in concert with one another. Similar with milsim groups, if a platoon just goes off and starts attacking something, they could easily get in a situation where they're getting crossfired on themselves, a friendly fire situation. So they have to be working together in a very close-knit way, otherwise things will just go crazy. And I think comms are a valuable thing for that. I don't know if we'll see it soon, though. I doubt we're going to see a huge amount of org stuff or anything like that kind of thing done this year. I think that's more of a next year focus. Once they start getting Squadron more in the pieces that need to be built for Squadron being built, so they can just start taking those tools and turning them into gameplay for that game, and then those teams returning back to Star Citizen as a focus. So All right. Last two questions. This one's from Treesan, who asks, how do you feel role-playing and finding your own fun will change as the game continues to add more serious consequences for death and destruction of ships, as well as more structured gameplay loops and pre-made experiences?
So there's a lot of words.
Yeah, it's just like how do you feel role playing and finding your own fun will change as the game continues to add more serious consequences for death / destruction of ships, as well as more structured gameplay loops and pre-made experiences. So like, how will finding your own fun change as like Death of a Spaceman comes in, where like when you die, or it hurts you more often.
Then you role play that death. Like, hey, I'm no longer this character because that character died off. So you can role play that. You can like role play is just improv. You go off of what's happening, and a general rule of improv is you can't say no.
No,
you gotta roll with it. You gotta roll with it. So if you're kind of doing improv role play, anything that they add new that's just like a left or right swipe, you just gotta go with it and just try to have fun with it. And I think as soon as you start being like, no, I'm not going to do something, or I'm going to go against this, you're not going to enjoy role playing at that point. And you should probably take a break of role playing if you're getting frustrated to the point where I don't want to be doing this, or I don't want to be a part of this because this game system just killed me and I got to start a whole new character. I was so involved with that character. How dare it? I think you just really got to learn to roll with it, and you got to roll with all the punches, all of them. You got to roll with them, or else you're going to have a not fun time trying to role play.
I think the other thing is like things like org v org, like practice games, or like where people are fighting each other is also another thing. I think to remember about those things as well is that in the future, death is going to be a lot harder to come by because we have things like permadeath. They've even said they want to make it a lot harder for you to die and more easy for you to get downed. So if you're in a situation where you're fighting somebody as like org v org fun battle or like practice sort of fight with each other, you have a rule. You just don't shoot down players, and
just don't make them regenerate. Let them get up. Let like medics come through and clear, or wait until the event is over and get your people back up. Unless they time out, then maybe just like say don't shoot medics and let medics res or drag people out, because that's the one thing. The Milsim org I do is we'll actually like fully role play, like once we get downed, even though we were backed up, we're still hurt, we're still injured, we're just brought back up with the med gun. We gotta go to the evac ship and go back to the base, and then we can be like, okay, you're back at base, you got medical, like we fully patched you back up, now you can go back out, you're ready to redeploy. Just like role playing stuff like that makes it a lot more kind of fair as well for the PvP side if they're doing the same thing, but also a lot more engaging in role play. So
new mechanics and like even more of these serious mechanics are never going to be detrimental to any of these large scale org events or RP. It's just going to add more depth to it. People are going to be running medical teams, people are going to be refueling, people are going to they're going to set up rules for their engagements, all that sort of stuff. So
they'll have to be a lot more prepared for some of these sorts of things. But I think that as we move forward, a lot of that stuff is going to move away. Like we're no longer going to have org v org fun battles. We're going to have actual conquest fights over a location, and then people won't have to do those practice battles. Or if they do those practice battles, they'll do them in places like theaters of war or other tools that will be available by then for them to have less consequences. So.
Also, these org v org fun battles are also creating a lot of alliances among orgs right now. They are taking the game very seriously to the point where say the PvP players, they might think they're really good, but they're not practicing on the level org v orgs are.
Yeah,
and as soon as you have 2 or 3 of these orgs who are training like every week still, and they're now grouping up to protect a system, well, the people who are just streaming PvP, what are they going to do against that org? They're not as organized and as well prepared as Milsim orgs are right now, even though we're just role playing and having fun. It's just
Yeah,
one
we
of those things where the practice and repetition and training is just like as silly as it is like getting all these orgs ready for when the game goes live and we're fighting over something, then we're ready for that. Other people won't be. They'll be like, oh, it's live. How are we gonna we need to set up an org now. I need people here now, help me. And there won't be communication ready. They won't know what they're going to be communicating, and it'll be a wreck without practice. So
yeah,
it'll be
we've seen that recently with the fight or flight that Ammo Esports recently ran. A lot of the best performing PvP players in that were not those people that are just hanging out solo streaming PvP or whatnot. They were these hardcore organized, we're doing a milsim operation every week groups. So
yeah, and I think the main changes we'll see is a lot of this stuff is going to turn into factors that will dovetail in. Right now, we're doing a lot of stuff because it's interesting and it's something to do that we haven't done 1,000 times already. But in the future, a lot of this stuff is going to be part of the tools that CIG gives us to explore the universe. It just won't be tied into mission systems or reputation. Finding a cool spot, like finding a location that is like an archaeological site of a former habitation that was abandoned 300 years ago. And looking through that and finding artifacts probably may never have a mission associated with it. But then you found that artifact and you can take it back and sell it, and suddenly, hey, it's an interesting thing to do. And so you friends can go through that area and pull up little pieces of rubble that might have some sort of significance that might feed into other things as well. So I think the future is more CIG gives us the tools to play in the sandbox rather than us playing with our hands in the sandbox and trying to make things work.
well, like maybe they could just add in like a rubble of like a pile of rubble blocking a caveway, but it just looks like a pile of rubble, and you don't think about it until you bring out your tractor beam and you start moving rocks and be like, wait, there's something behind here.
Yeah, just like Picoballs, a great example of that. It's more stuff like Picoballs, but just things you can find, like the Hadesian artifact, like they showed in the last CitizenCon. So. All right, last question, which is from Wallon2503, who asks, do you think we will maybe have sabotage missions? The Kovalex or similar will give us to sabotage competition, like industrial sabotage.
yeah, for sure, 100%. Like I feel like we kind of have things like that already. It's just between military groups. So why would we not have the same thing for between delivery missions and stuff?
The comma rays and the comma ray missions, those are all sabotage and non-sabotage missions of the back and forth of like, we want you to shut down this comma ray, go sabotage it, and then hey, this comma ray is down, go fix it because it was sabotaged. That's already happening with the comma rays, but I could definitely see it happening with every single like org that gives you reputation that has a rival org or anything. I could see missions counteracting the others of like, try to get this one here. If they're already there, kill them.
Yeah.
Or like, do what you can to like, to do what you can to drop their cargo without killing them, or.
There was a monthly report discussion for animation and for AI, which talks about that they've started to work with AI where AI guards will report dead bodies. And they've talked about in the past of the idea of you being able to use hacking to break into areas of landing zones you're not supposed to go into, and where guards might find you and say, move along, like those sorts of interactions where a guard will actually interact with you if you're in a restricted area and tell you to get out or arrest you or whatever. And so I think those are sort of indications that CIG definitely wants us to do infiltrate and sabotage or like find information, like missions or little aspects for it, for sure.
I'd love stealth to be in the game. Stealth and just.
All right, that's the last question. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to Croncy and Nick for taking questions with us. If you like this and you're watching this on YouTube or listening to this on the podcast, come join us live at twitch.tv/theastropub at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. If you're watching this on YouTube, tell us in the comments below if your own questions, your own thoughts on what we talked about. I'd love to hear what you have to say. And as always, like the video, subscribe, and remember. Oh wait, that's the wrong outro. Hope to see you someday in the black.